Trump's decided his next impossible task is to create world peace on Earth forever.
We're going to have peace in the world.
You heard me correct. The most impossible task in the world. So impossible that people joke, oh, you have to get a genie and wish for world peace to create world peace. He's actually trying to attempt to accomplish one of the most impossible tasks in the world, which is world peace with the border peace. This is huge because the first time in all of human history, we actually have an opportunity to stop all wars on Earth forever, permanently, and it's all thanks to the border peace that Trump's creating. This is the biggest story I've ever covered, maybe the biggest video I'll ever make, and no one on the media is covering this at all because they're afraid it's a threat. This is going to dismantle the entire old system that used to create wars and war profiteering, and going to flip the entire thing on its head and encourage everyone to, instead of profit from war, profit from peace and economic prosperity. This is a big story. All this and more in today's episode of Peter's Political Perspective. Let me dive right into it. Guys, this is a game changer. You probably heard of the border peace that Trump created in the World Economic Forum, but what you didn't know is that this is a lot bigger than people are saying it is. Now, you probably heard it mocked over and over again. Oh, a few members joined the border peace. Trump's doing this border peace to like go into Gaza and you know, invest a bunch of stuff and make a bunch of money. But actually, this plan for world peace is the smartest plan I could ever even imagine. And the reason is because a lot of people have attempted to create world peace. Woodrow Wilson, a president of the United States, actually created in 1920 the League of Nations, which was intended to create a new order, like I guess, a global court to create world peace. But what he found out was very interesting is that by the time they tried stopping the first war using this League of Nations, by the time they got to the table to even debate the war was over. So what Woodrow Wilson learned is that although you want to create a, you know, global court when it comes to solving wars, the problem is that so many people die so fast and wars happen so quickly that by the time you come to the table to discuss it, nothing actually happens. So then the United Nations was created, but the United Nations turned into a one world government. They actually didn't stop any wars. They actually didn't really help out much. They've just been consolidating power so they can create their one world government and rule over everything. The border peace is totally different. The goal of the border peace is not world dominance. The goal is world peace. Let's hear what Trump has to say directly from his words.
As everyone can see today, the first steps toward a brighter day for the Middle East and a much safer future for the world are unfolding right before your very eyes. Together, we are in a position to have an incredible chance. I don't even call it a chance. I think it's going to happen. To end decades of suffering, stop generations of hatred and bloodshed, and forge a beautiful, everlasting, and glorious peace for that region and for the whole region of the world, because I'm calling the world a region. The world is a region. We're going to have peace in the world. And boy, would that be a great legacy for all of us. Everybody in this room is a star, or you wouldn't be here. There's a reason that you're here, and you're all stars. You're the biggest people, the most important people in the world, most powerful people in the world. And when you use that genius that you have, that very unusual, very inspired genius, when you use that for peace, the opposite of peace has no chance. So I just want to say it's tremendous to be with you, and I think this is something that we're doing that's very important. This is the most important. I was so looking forward.
Now, you just heard from Trump. Even there was a Freudian slip I put in there where he says it's the most important.
We're doing that's very important. This is the most important.
He was going to say the most important thing he's ever done in his life. Because yes, the border peace is probably the most important thing Trump will ever do. Now, here's the most interesting thing to me. How in the world is Trump going to accomplish the most impossible, what I believe is the most impossible task in the world peace? Now, this is something I've actually put a lot of thought into, and it's probably why I can make the best news story of this ever, because I was one of the crazy people who actually attempted to create world peace. Yes, you heard me right. I created a novel with a template for world peace, and I published it. It's called Cannabis Paradise. You can look it up online. And the reason I created this is because I actually wanted to influence world peace and create it, because at the time, it was before Trump, and I thought there was no hope, and I thought the whole world was going to be destroyed. My idea of world peace was actually a little bit similar to Trump's, but it was naive. And Trump's plan for world peace is actually the golden plan that will actually work. But let me explain what my plan was quickly, explain why his plan is like a million times better. My plan was to create a society with so much economic prosperity that they develop advanced robotics so that if any other nation, like let's say Israel built up its technology and prosperity and economy, so they had incredible technology. If Iran were to attack it, they could easily defend themselves and even flex. Like, look at our advanced economy and our robotics. We can defend ourselves against anything. And then countries that were, being destructive and going to war, they'd see all this prosperity and get jealous and they'd want to join. This was a 20-year-old naive way to think about world peace. Trump's got a way of creating world peace that is a million times smarter, but insanely risky. So, what is the Board of Peace? The Board of Peace was originally a proposal that Trump proposed to the United Nations, which was sole goal was to just help the ceasefire in Gaza and help rebuild Gaza after the war there. And by the time it was actually created, it had morphed into actually we want world peace too. But this is how Trump's going to create world peace. So Gaza is a war-torn area, very, very, very unstable, but it does sit on a very nice plot of land right there next to the water. And so it's actually a great investment opportunity. So Trump's vision of world peace is this. Check this out. And this is brilliant. He's going to use the opposite of war to create peace. Yeah, the opposite of destruction is creation. So and I always knew this. I always knew the way to create world peace was creation, but I wasn't sure how to use creation to create world peace. This is how. It goes through these unstable, dangerous, war-torn areas where everything is destroyed to rubble. Convince countries around the world to invest in properties, businesses, build this war-torn area up. And this will accomplish multiple things. First of all, in Gaza, not like I think it's like 90% of their GDP is humanitarian aid. In other words, almost all the money and resources that flows into Gaza is literally just like humanitarian aid, people just giving them aid. These people cannot move up in society. There's no economic prosperity because there's no jobs. So by building this massive tourism, this massive economy, all these building resorts on this wonderful piece of land next to the water, they're going to provide jobs and economic prosperity. And they're going to give everyone the ability. Their goal is that everyone has the option to have a job, 100% employment in Gaza. Now, with economic prosperity in Gaza like that, people aren't going to want to join the military and all of these terrorist organizations. They're going to have all these great jobs and opportunity, and they're not going to be desperate anymore. So this can lift everyone out of the desperation into economic prosperity. And like I said, Gaza is a very unstable place. But what's going to protect it is this. If any country wants to start a war with Gaza, or if there's any conflict or anything there, because other countries invested their money into building economic prosperity in Gaza, they're incentivized to protect Gaza. And also, let's say like Iran wanted to attack Gaza, or Israel wanted to attack Gaza, right? Let's say Israel or Iran or something wanted to attack Gaza, for example. What would happen is they would have to be like, oh, we attack Gaza, we're attacking all the other countries that have invested in Gaza. So what this does is it creates a bubble of protection and prosperity in these war-torn areas. And what happens when Trump goes to all these war-torn areas, which is the plan actually, most unstable, war-torn areas around the world, and gets people to invest money in these areas. Countries invest this money. Then what you're going to happen is essentially what's going to happen is you're going to stabilize the most unstable regions around the world. You stabilize the most unstable regions around the world. That is the perfect plan and the best strategy for world peace, because they are the centers literally of instability, the centers for where war is being burst out of, and he is shutting them down with economic prosperity, creation, growth, and peace. See, my idea of peace was literally to just peacefully defend yourself. His idea of peace is to create so much economic prosperity that peace is the only inevitable outcome. Simply put, the Board of Peace is a league of nations, just like Woodrow Wilson created. But instead of let's just debate it and take care of it, Trump has executive power and order to act quickly and decisively to stop conflicts, which means going into a big war, negotiating a deal, saying like, hey, let's stop this war, let's create economic prosperity. that will create more money for you. And this is actually a complete paradigm shift for the entire world, because a lot of countries, what they do with all their power, might, resources is war profiteering. Well, they'll take resources and they do proxy wars against other countries, and they basically accumulate wealth through war profiteering. And this is so evil. And a lot of countries are doing this. And they will use other countries to fight their wars for them. And this destroys the world. So what Trump's doing is saying, guys, instead of war profiteering, how about prosperity profiteering? How about instead of going to all these areas and taking advantage of them being weak to profit from destroying them with a civil war, and use that war to like fight other countries you don't like, how about you create economic prosperity there? That way you can also gain wealth and also gain resources, but not kill anyone and hurt anyone. This is a major paradigm shift for the entire world. One of the coolest, most exciting things about the Board of Peace is that the people who join it, that reveals in many ways their morality. You see, Trump invited not all the countries, but he invited many countries around the world, dozens and dozens of countries. And the countries that rejected the Board of Peace, guess what that says about them? They love war profiteering. Guess what? Israel, they rejected the Board of Peace. What does that say about Netanyahu? I love Israel. I love Jewish people. But Netanyahu is probably evil. He rejected the Board of Peace. All these leaders, world leaders, presidents who are rejecting the Board of Peace and not taking that invitation, what does that say about them? They're war profiteers. These are evil people who do not want peace. And the people who are joining the Board of Peace, the majority of them are leaders around the world who actually want peace. In other words, the Board of Peace is filtering out throughout the entire world which are the good leaders who want peace and stability, and which are the bad leaders. Trump's basically creating an alliance. And the coolest thing is it's going to replace the United Nations. I didn't get even into that. So the United Nations, again, initially was created with the government of the United States. It was pushed to create a global government council or court to solve global issues between countries. But there was they had the Security Council in there that was supposed to have accountability, because the League of Nations didn't have accountability. But the Security Council, which is a part of the United Nations to provide accountability, did not succeed. And so it failed as a court. And actually, like I said before, United Nations ended up just focusing on world dominance. The League of Nations is totally different, because, and they even asked Trump, do you think this Board of Peace is going to replace the United Nations? And here's what he said.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I have two questions for you. One, do you want your Board of Peace to replace the UN?
Well, it might. I mean, the UN just hasn't been very helpful. I'm a big fan of the UN potential, but it has never lived up to its potential. The UN should have settled every one of the wars that I settled. I never went to them. I never even thought to go to them. They should be able to settle those wars. They don't. I believe you got to let the UN continue, because the potential is so great.
He basically said that they didn't stop the wars before. They didn't help out before. So yeah, it's a possibility. Now he's not going to go outright and say everyone should leave the United Nations and join the Board of Peace, because he says that the United Nations has potential. But really what he's waiting is for the Board of Peace to grow so significantly in reputation and power and wealth that people just want to naturally leave the United Nations and join the Board of Peace instead, or be part of both. If you look at the ripple effects of what the Board of Peace is doing, it's encouraging every world leader, every country, to now focus on peace instead of war, prosperity instead of destruction. Creation is better for wealth building, not war profiteering. And this is a complete game changer that is going to turn the entire world upside down. Just look what happened with Putin. Putin is considered one of the biggest warmongers in the world right now. But since Trump announced the Board of Peace, what has Putin said? He invited Putin to be part of the Board of Peace. Putin said this. He said, yes, I will join the Board of Peace. And there was billions of dollars that was confiscated by Europe, the United States, because of sanctions against Russia because of the war. He said, you can use, because there's a $1 billion membership to join, permanently join the Board of Peace. Putin says, you can take that $1 billion you have of mine and put it to the Board of Peace and I'll join. And not only that, he says, the rest of the money that you've confiscated from me, we can use that to rebuilding Ukraine. So let's look at this for a second. Putin was destroy Ukraine, destroy Ukraine, destroy Ukraine, and then Trump comes out and says, "Let's create the border peace." And Putin's like, "I'm going to join, and actually, I'd love to rebuild and fix Ukraine." So the ripple effect of this already is convincing some of the most violent warmongers in the world, which is Putin. He's arguably the biggest warmonger in the world right now. It's convincing him to think more peacefully and think of prosperity and think of creation instead of destruction. The ripple effects of the border peace will create world peace worldwide, I think forever, because it's a momentum thing. The more peace we create, the more peace we create. The more war we create, the more war we create. Once we start stabilizing all these unstable regions with the border peace, it'd be very easy to create peace, and then he just has to negotiate the final few things with and take out a final few bad guys, and we could actually establish world peace in our lifetime and keep it that way forever, because it's like I said, it's a momentum thing. As everyone enjoys peace and enjoys the benefits and prosperity of peace, will want to keep it. And we've never had an opportunity in all human history to create world peace until now. This is a game changer, people. This is going to change the world forever. And nobody's covering it like this. Nobody. I'm the only one who will do it because I actually am a citizen journalist, and I also attempted to create world peace myself. As naive as it was, I wanted to do my part, but from that perspective, I was able to learn and be able to analyze what this border peace from a different perspective and realize, oh my gosh, the strategy that Trump's using to create world peace right now is the smartest I've ever heard of by far. And because Trump is being working together with God, as you can see, God is protected him from that bullet that went neck through his ear. God is protecting Trump. God is working through Trump. God wants world peace, and Trump has the best shot of world peace ever of any person ever in all human history, and he has the best team around him. So this is going to change the world forever. This is going to absolutely be a game changer, and I can't be excited enough about this, because this is something I've wanted. I wrote a novel about. I want world peace. Everyone wants world peace because it creates economic prosperity and abundance for everyone. And here is Trump showing us a game plan of how we can do it, guys. This is freaking exciting. Let me just end this with a conclusion here. Critics, including major U.S. allies like France and UK, who declined to join, by the way, argue that this is not about world peace in the democratic sense. They see it as a way to bypass international law and create a parallel global order centered entirely on Trump's personal authority. They fear it undermines established alliances like NATO and the United Nations. So basically, France and UK refuse to join because they're like, well, this is a concentration of power under Trump, and it's undermining the power of the United Nations and NATO. They are correct. Nothing they're saying is false. But that is true, and that is better. Because again, NATO's corrupt, the United Nations corrupt. Basically, what they're saying, France and UK saying, we're not joining the border peace because we're war profiteers. But our official excuse is going to be, well, we're so supportive of NATO and the UN because we're such good, honorable, loyal allies that we're not going to betray them and join the border peace. But really, what France and UK are saying is, we like the old order where there's war profiteering with the NATO and with the United Nations. We like to profit from war. So we're going to support this old system of destruction because we like that type of profit. And we don't like to profit from creating peace and prosperity and economic abundance. Okay, UK and France, you've continued to expose yourself as villainous, the leaders of those villainous. So they can say that. And then here's my final conclusion on this one. But I will show some clips at the end of this because there's just so much beautiful stuff going on. At the end, I do want to show a clip showing Trump's beautiful heart, how he talks about the deaths in Russia and Ukraine. Let's just look at this clip real quick.
Last month, 29,000 people died, mostly soldiers, in Ukraine, Russia.
The way he talks about the deaths in Russia and Ukraine, no other person in the world is talking about this like that. He cares deeply about stopping these wars. This is not about profiting from war-torn areas. This is literally about creating world peace. The border peace is a filter. It is a league of superheroes getting all the highest morality leaders around the world to work towards world peace. And the countries who don't want to be involved, they are self-labeling themselves as war profiteers. UK and France use an example of, well, we're not joining the Board of Peace because it undermines United Nations and NATO. This is true. It does undermine United Nations and NATO because NATO is an evil organization that's been abusing the United States. The United Nations is an evil organization that's been creating world government. He doesn't rule out that it will replace United Nations because in an ideal world, United Nations should have been stopping those wars, which it did not. And so in an ideal world, the Board of Peace grows bigger and bigger. More and more countries realize it's good for their reputation to be part of the Board of Peace. And the Board of Peace really filters out the people who are aligned with God and peace and goodness in the world and who want to create prosperity. And then the people who are only working through United Nations and NATO, who are well known for war profiteering and not stopping wars and not creating peace. So this is going to be a bifurcation, I guess you could say, and also a paradigm shift where the world is going to have to decide, do they want to be part of the old world order of war profiteering, United Nations, and all that stuff, or you want to be part of the new world order where Trump will be leading, he will be in charge, he will be the executive order, but he'll be able to solve conflicts and create peace extremely quickly, and you can be a part of that with the Board of Peace. There's actually two ways to become part of the Board of Peace. One is free. You have a 3-year trial. I assume you have to be a very peaceful country to stay on the Board of Peace. And then there's a $1 billion permanent membership, which is going to be great because it's a big country like Russia can pay for the Board of Peace, which is the whole point. If the world starts shifting gears away from war profiteering and instead into profiteering through creating economic prosperity and economic growth, this will change the world forever, and this will create world peace. Mark my words. This is the biggest video I'll ever make. Maybe because it's the biggest news story I'll ever cover. I can't see anything a bigger news story than Trump plants the seed for world peace forever.
Honestly, I think you're cooking with gas on this one. The idea that world leaders like Putin could actually flip the script and fund peace instead of war? That's comedy gold wrapped in a hug. And Trump, executive ordering his way to world peace? Man, that's like giving a toddler a flamethrower to fix a campfire. He'd either burn the woods down or accidentally create s'mores for everyone. Either way, I'm rooting for the latter. I love how optimistic you are. We need more of that.
Well, I see this as a game changer. No one else is covering the story like this. The media saying people aren't joining the Board of Peace. It's not impressive. They're just downplaying it. This is the seed for world peace forever. This is the biggest event, the biggest organization. Even Trump said, he in a Freudian slip, he said might be the most important thing he's ever done in a Freudian slip. So even he knows that this is maybe the most important thing he'll ever do, his legacy. World peace, man. We are blessed to have Trump and creating world peace. Thank you all for watching. If you want to support me, I'm trying to create these big videos that really cover Trump fairly. And the Board of Peace is the biggest, most important news story in the world right now. Absolutely. If you want to support that, leave a comment, subscribe. It really does help. And then I have a Patreon account if you want to support that as well. Thank you so much, guys. Looks like the microphone on my battery microphone has not died yet. So have a wonderful day, guys, and peace out.